Good morning, everybody. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear speakers, dear participants, let me welcome you to the Regional Challenge Fund national event to announce the first call for expression of interest in Kosovo. My name is 𝗕𝗪𝗏𝗂𝗏. I'm part of the Regional Challenge Fund Management Unit as a regional coordinator for Albania, Kosovo, and North Macedonia, and I'll be the moderator of this webinar. For this webinar to be a flawless and pleasant experience, we also have our technical support team with us, and I'll go straight to Alexandra now to share some recommendations with us. Alexandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vasily. Dear attendees, welcome to the launch event of the Regional Challenge Fund in Western Balkan 6 in Kosovo. The webinar provides interpretations in English and Albanian. The interpretation icon, that is globus icon on the Zoom toolbar, you can click to activate simultaneous translation. Choose the language you want to hear from the language menu, English or Albanian audio channel. You may mute the original sound with the mute original audio button in the language menu, which is highly recommended. You may ask questions in the chat or Q&A box. To ask a question in the chat, choose during the webinar to all panelists and attendees options. The questions will be answered during the Q&A session. If you are experiencing technical difficulties hearing the webinar, please check your audio settings. You may contact technical support via chat or info@rcf-wb6.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. You heard about the chat and the Q&A option, so I would encourage everybody to use it. We'll try to address some of your questions. Maybe we won't address most of them, related to the expression of interest process, eligibility, and selection criteria. And I will try to do that at the end of the webinar. As the introductory video has shown, the Regional Challenge Fund aims to strengthen the labor market relevance of vocational education and training by funding investments in equipment and infrastructure for training providers that engage in cooperative training activities with the partnering enterprises. By working with both web providers and private companies, the fund seeks to raise the overall quality of vocational education training and align it with the needs of labor markets in the individual countries throughout the region. This would support eventually increased employability of young people and graduates and contribute to economic growth and regional integration. The Regional Challenge Fund is commissioned by the German government to KfW Development Bank and executed by the Western Balkan 6 Chambers Investment Forum. This is a joint initiative of Chamber of Commerce from WB6 countries. The chambers established this platform of cooperation in 2017 to provide a joint voice to the business community in the region, facilitating inter-business contacts and promoting the region as one investment destination. Kosovo is being represented in this forum by the Kosovo Chamber of Commerce. It was founded in 1962, and it represents the interests of the business community in Kosovo, contributes in their progress, and promotes the economic development of the country. Today, we have here with us Mr. Berat Rukici, the president of the chamber, will share with us the importance and the expected impact of the Regional Challenge Fund in strengthening the cooperation between companies and vet schools, aiming at increasing the quality of the workforce and competitiveness of the enterprises. Mr. Rukici, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Renato. And it's very much important for me and actually I think for all of you to launch this new project of, let's say, one of the most important donors and supporters of Kosovo economic development. In this case, German government, and also represented through KfW. All KfW projects are leaving a huge impact here in Kosovo, especially in utilities and in better services for citizens of Kosovo. So we are very much thankful because we have much more heating, much more water, and many, let's say, necessary and let's say life-saving services here in Kosovo, with huge and very dedicated involvement of 𝗕𝗹𝗵𝗹. So I'm quite sure that also this involvement will leave some legacy, some positive legacy for citizens of Kosovo. And in this case, the main beneficiary is private sector and also young people of Kosovo. So we are very much excited to start this. We have been quite much involved in planning process through Western Balkan Chambers Investment Forum. I know that it was long negotiation how to move on. So now we are here, and despite difficulties to start, I think it's important moment that this is starting also in Kosovo. And I would like to invite all regional players, but also local players to let's say to get involved and to use the benefits of this important project named Regional Challenge Fund. It's something that I think is different from the other projects because is bringing, let's say, for very first time, a possibility to have strong partnerships between schools and between private businesses. So let's say in previous projects, we have seen some cooperation between, let's say, education sector and private sector, but this was, let's say, just at very limited scale. Now, I think through Challenge Fund, we will see more advanced cooperation, and also schools, especially schools, will have a chance to see what are the needs of the private sector, and also develop themselves based on the needs of the private sector. So this is quite important. Also, students will benefit with a whole new range of skills through these partnerships, and also will create the direct linkage with the labor market, because this is a good opportunity to involve them directly into labor market, not, let's say, waiting for some formalities or for some, let's say, just short-term activities that are, let's say, inviting them to be part of labor market. But this is something very structured, and being very structured will offer opportunities for students to see that private sector is a good opportunity for their career. Right now, we don't see this. I mean, most of youngsters are looking to find a job at public sector. So through those activities and through those projects, I think that we will raise attractiveness of the private sector in terms of, let's say, attracting young people to join the private sector and to find long-term jobs in private sector. And this is another important element of this project. So basically, benefits are, let's say, comprehensive. There will be a benefit for the private sector because technical assistance, knowledge, equipment, everything what is coming from the project will increase also their willingness to invest in skills. There will be importance for youngsters because they will gain new skills and opportunity to find a job, and especially for schools because for the very first time they have opportunity to be in kind of commercial, let's say, type of partnership with the private sector, and this will be, I think, quite beneficial for everyone. So we are very much happy to be part of the planning process, but also to be part of the implementation process. And of course, we are open to work with everyone to have as much as possible added value into this project. Of course, there is also another part of private sector here, represented through German Chamber of Commerce, but also many sectoral associations that are part of the chamber, but also that are working independently, that can be, let's say, part of the process into different stages. Nora is very much keen in skills part. She is very let's say, very vocal in terms of policies, especially pushing decision makers here to have closer look into skills development, because we have a lot of, let's say, good speeches about the importance of education, but we should have also concrete steps. And I think jointly with Nora, also with new government, we will be very keen into implementing not only this project, but also policies that are important in terms of skills development and having a competitive labor force, not just a cheap labor force, but also competitive labor force. Thanks a lot. This is from my side. If there is any question or any comment.
Thank you, Berat, for your nice words, and we're looking forward to bring our cooperation forward. Indeed, actually, it was quite a long period of time, but it was, as we all know, impacted by the COVID situation, and we would have liked, all of us, to start earlier in the project, but now is the right time, I think, and the spring is approaching, so we have all the preconditions to move forward. And indeed, in almost all countries of the WB6, we hear often complaints for shortage of skilled workers and the lack of an appropriate vet system that addresses the needs of the labor market. And we try to, through this project, to bridge that gap. Kosovo's vocational education and training system has been subject to a reform process, the purpose of which is to bring qualitative and quantitative improvements to the training provided by vet institutions. In the long run, this should eventually increase the competitiveness of businesses and reduce unemployment, particularly among young people. Despite the positive developments focused on setting the institutional framework, the vet system still lacks a clear orientation towards the local labor market needs. The government, however, has started to improve and consolidate the legal infrastructure that promotes this consistent development of skills and competencies through education, by enhancing dialogues with social partners, including businesses, in order to get to know their needs for qualification and skilled workforce. Initiatives for the development of the secondary legislation on the work-based learning have taken place. And therefore, I'd like to invite Ms. 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶, Head of Quality Assurance and Vet Standards in the Ministry of Education and Science, to share with us these initiatives in bridging the gap between private sector and vet providers and increasing the overall quality of vet education. So, 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶, the word is for you now. Thank you.
Atëherë, faleminderit Renato, përshëndetje për gjithë, të nderuar përfaqësues të ambasadës gjermane, përfaqësues të KFV-s, si ajo qendrore në Gjermani, po ashtu edhe ajo në Kosovë, zyra në Kosovë, të nderuar pjesëmarrës, drejtor shkollash, udhëheqës të bizneseve, të gjithë kolegët të mi që kemi kontaktuar kohëve të fundit. Unë sa jam e nderuar të marr pjesë në takimin e parë, i cili është në nivel kombëtar dhe po ashtu ka të bëjë me shprehjen e interesit apo shprehjen e parë të interesit për fondet e sfidës rajonale. E dini, do të thotë që një kohë të gjatë të gjithë ne që mirëm me arsimin dhe arsimin profesional, qëllimi i vetëm është dhe ai që duhet të mbetet është bashkëpunimi me biznesin apo ngritja e shkatësive të rinjve për tregun e punës. Dhe mënyra më e mirë që na është ofruar pas krejt këtyre viteve është do të thotë që të kemi edhe përkrahjen e Bankës Gjermane për Zhvillim dhe projektit fondi sfidues, i cili do të na përkrah në 5 vitet e ardhshme, me mundësi besoj edhe vazhdimi, dhe ne si Ministria e Arsimit, duke qenë edhe hartues apo pjesë edhe e marrëveshjes dhe kësaj politike në bashkëpunim me qeverinë gjermane, me GIZ-in dhe me gjithë partnerët tjerë, besoj se do arrijmë qëllimin për cilin veç se i kemi filluar këto hapa. Ndoshta vetëm të përmendi shkurt se paraprakisht me të gjithë partnerët tjerë, po sidomos me bizneset me cilët bashkëpunojmë dhe institucionet e arsimit dhe aftësimit profesional, ne veç kemi filluar të trasojmë një rrugë drejt mësimit në vendin e punës si një hap i parë për të arritur të një sistem dual i mirëfillt. Natyrisht, duke ditur se shtetet e rajonit, përfshirë këtu do thotë të gjithë ne, është e pamundur që menjëherë të kalojmë në sistem dual, dhe kështu që Kosova ka filluar, do thotë çdo gjë është e rregulluar me ligj, edhe sistemi dual e kemi parë në ligj, por ne me udhëzime administrative si Ministria e Arsimit kemi rregulluar do thotë hapat e parë apo mësimin në vendin e punës me të gjithë legjislacionin e kërkuar dhe dokumentet përcjellëse. Tani më kemi edhe udhëzimin administrativ dhe udhëzuesit për implementim të mësimit në vendin e punës, dhe po ashtu edhe udhëzuesin për sigurim të cilësisë në gjatë implementimit të mësimit në vendin e punës. Po para kësaj, ne vetë se kemi pilotu mësimin në vendin e punës me disa shkolla dhe disa biznese, prapë në bashkëpunim me partnerët tanë, dhe po ashtu në të njëjtën kohë Ministria e Arsimit së bashku me partnerët, duke parë sfidat që edhe bizneset kanë në raport me mësimin në vendin e punës apo praktikën profesionale të nxënësve në kompani, ne së bashku me GIZ-in dhe AIN kemi kaluar edhe në procesin e trajnimit të instruktorëve në kompani, po ashtu të instruktorëve në shkollë, dhe kemi edhe trajner të certifikuar të cilët do t'jenë me ne gjatë gjithë këtyre viteve dhe këtij procesi që sot po e fillojmë. Natyrisht kemi edhe programet e akredituara, licencuara, dhe ato tani janë pronë e Ministrisë së Arsimit dhe mund të përdoren nga ofruesit që plotësojnë kushtet, dhe këto trajnime do të vazhdojnë edhe gjatë projektit dhe besoj se do t'jenë një bazë shumë e mirë për implementim sa më të mirë të fondit rajonal në këtë rast, po edhe në pjesën tjetër, në fazën e dytë, ku do të shumë me unë që mos marr shumë kohë, sepse kemet e dura. Ajo që mund të them është se tash këtë vit ne do të fillojmë edhe hartimin e strategjisë të arsimit para universitar, kështu që në këtë strategji natyrisht se të gjitha modalitetet dhe politikat të cilat do të jenë në vazhdimsi, do të jenë të prezantuara dhe në strategji, kështu që çdo hap që është duke u ndërmarrë është komplet në vijim me politikat e Ministrisë së Arsimit, dhe me këtë rast, edhe pse ndoshta edhe po besoj se është vendi, desha ta falenderoj përzemërsisht edhe ministrin 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗏, i cili në këtë hap, me këtë projekt, duke qenë se ka qenë pjesë e arsimit dhe aftësimit profesional kohë të gjatë, pra këtu e falenderoj edhe si shok, edhe si kolegë, edhe si bashkëpunëtor, por edhe si ministër, ka shtyrë përpara të gjitha këto udhëzime që përmenda. Po ashtu kemi edhe udhëzimin administrativ për stimulimin e vajzave dhe stimulimin e të rinjve për të do të thotë ndahen bursa edhe. Do të thotë kjo është një hap i cili është marrë tash së fundmi, do të thotë të gjitha këto hapa janë zyrtarizuar nga ministri në dhjetor, dhe fatmirësisht i kemi të gjithë kolegët nga shumë projekte tjera, të cilët po ashtu kanë dhënë kontributin e tyre të çmuar me përvojat nga shtete të ndryshme si Zvicra, Gjermania, Austria, dhe e di që do të jenë me ne edhe në këtë hap, veç se jemi në biseda, kemi biseduar. Prandaj na mbetet ne si Ministria e Arsimit së bashku me Odën Ekonomike që të bashkëveprojmë, që të takojmë gjatë kësaj periudhe, sidomos në këto 3 muaj të parë, që janë shumë e rëndësi, të gjithë të interesuarit nga bizneset, shkollat e interesuara për aplikim në këto fonde, dhe po ashtu kanë lirinë plot që të kontaktojnë me të gjithë kolegët nga projektet, të cilët do të udhëzohen nga Ministria e Arsimit dhe projekti, implementuesit e projektit, për hapat e në tutejn, dhe po ashtu me kriteret dhe procedurat të cilët duhet të kalohen. Pra qëllimi ynë është që të ndërlidhin këto 2 sisteme së bashku, duke ditur që Kosova kalon, sidomos tash pas pandemisë, me sfida të shumta në zhvillim ekonomik, e jona si shtet, si institucione, si donator, është që të bëjmë më të mirën dhe këto fonde të shfrytëzohen në ato profile, në ato sektor ku shohim dhe ka politika të hartuara qartë se do ta ngrisin zhvillimin ekonomik, duke mos lënë anash natyrisht të gjitha bizneset tona të vogla, të cilat më shumë se kur kanë nevojë për përkrahje. Besoj se pak a shumë është kjo, sepse do lë edhe çështje tjera të ngriten. Po ashtu mund të përmend se edhe plan programet janë në proces të rishikimit, dhe në këtë shtator do fillojmë me plan programe të rishikuara plotësisht, me standarde të profesionit të plotësuara, rishikuara, me bashkëpunimin e ngushtë që kemi me Shqipërinë, për shkëmbim të materialeve, çfarë do qofshin mësimore, kështu që besoj që me një vullnet të mirë dhe një përkushtim me këtë projekt do arrijmë shumë. Ju faleminderit të gjithëve për pjesëmarrjen dhe besoj se do na kontaktoni dhe jemi këtu për ju sot, të gjithë këta panelistë, po edhe kolegë tjerë që do ju kontaktojnë së shpejti. Faleminderit, Renati.
Thank you very much, Valbona, for sharing with us these initiatives of the ministry, especially with regard to the work-based learning guideline and the solid steps, I would say, towards moving towards a dual education legal framework. And thank you also for expressing your commitment in supporting both companies and schools in achieving their common goal, working together towards improving the quality of vet education. Thank you very much. Germany is Kosovo's largest bilateral donor and also provides financial support to the country through its participation in several EU programs. And since 1999, Germany has provided more than 600 million euros for emergency relief measures, humanitarian assistance, technical and financial cooperation projects. And since many years now, the cooperation has focused on sustainable development, in other words, projects with a lasting impact, with the main goal of helping Kosovo to move closer to EU standards and structures. I'm very glad that Ms. Vera Baumann, First Secretary and Head of Development Cooperation of the German Embassy, accepted our invitation to be here with us today. Ms. Baumann, we would like to hear from you on the German government continuous efforts to support Kosovo's economic development and, most importantly, in your view, the impact of vet education to the economic growth of the country. The word is for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vassili. Good morning, everyone. Dear Ms. Gnjeko, dear Mr. Rukici, dear professionals, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to speak on behalf of the German government today on such an important issue as vocational education and training. I hope that the translation, well, I'm not sure, did we ensure that the translation is okay? Could I get just a bit of feedback in the chat, because I felt from the chat that the translation is not really working.
Translation is working right now.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm very glad that the governments of Kosovo and Germany have just reaffirmed that VET and the creation of jobs will continue to be a priority sector of cooperation in the years to come. Kosovo and the region can certainly count on Germany's support to overcome youth employment and the lack of skilled workers, because it's really sad when a young person full of energy is without a perspective for the future. I'm not sure if you heard about the recent UNDP report, which said that depression rates in Kosovo have risen up to 35% due to COVID-19, but also due to the widespread unemployment. So this is another big motivation for Germany to support in this sector. Germany decided to substantially support the Regional Challenge Fund with about 20 million euro, but this is not the only project. As Mr. 𝗏𝗡𝗂𝗂 just pointed out, Germany is active in different areas. We have also supported water supply, wastewater disposal, energy supply, and so on. But VET is increasingly getting important in the German cooperation with Kosovo and the Western Balkans. We have not only the Regional Challenge Fund to support vocational education and training, we will also just set up a new major GIZ program, which is called Fit for Jobs. And we will also transform the former 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗏 camp in Prizren into an innovation and training park, where we would like to also connect closer businesses and VET providers. So you see that the German engagement is vast, and I would very much encourage you to keep your eyes open also for funding and network opportunities. Well, luckily, what I think is really great about Kosovo is that you have a number of excellent preconditions for vocational education. You have a young, flexible labor force, which we cannot really say about Germany at the moment. You have a government, a recent and an upcoming one, which is very dedicated, and you have a donor community who is willing to support you over the years to come. So I would very much like to encourage you that we all work together and create opportunities through vocational education. With all and everyone, I mean companies, schools, the local administration, ministries for sure, the government, and us as donors as well. So I wish we put all our forces together in the next years to get the Kosovan and the regional economy out of crisis and to create valuable jobs. Maybe some words on the vocational education in Germany. You might know that it has a really excellent reputation. Constantly, international organizations really appreciate the German vocational education system. And for example, the OECD also clearly recommends the German system as a role model in VET. This is probably due to the fact that the German system has more than 70 years of experience of bringing companies and training centers and schools together. And there is this constant know-how exchange between businesses and training providers. And yeah, certainly also constant innovation. In fact, I really believe that the German VET system is one of the most important reasons why Germany's economy is stable and successful. And this is really also a reason why we would be happy if the Regional Challenge Fund can be a tool so that we can share this successful experience from Germany also with the Western Balkans. I also hope that with the Regional Challenge Fund, we can support the alignment of VET standards within the Western Balkans at first, but later also with other EU countries, because this will increase the mobility of skilled labor force, and this again will contribute to increase the stability and the peace in the region. So this is certainly also a motivation why Germany puts many funds in vocational education and training, because we know it stabilizes economies, and stable economies lead to happy people, content people, and this basically just supports also the stability and cooperation and peace in the region. Finally, maybe I would like to conclude with saying that Germany will remain Kosovo's and the region's partner for vocational education over the years to come. This is very sure. Vocational education has just been defined as one of the priority cooperation areas of the new strategy of the German government in cooperation with the Western Balkans. So yeah, we look forward to connecting our countries' economies closer and to further tighten our friendship and to create win-win situations, and to hopefully also welcome you, the Kosovo and the other Western Balkans soon to the EU family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Baumann. Thank you very much for your words, and thank you for expressing the continuous support of the German government to the Kosovo economy. And not only Germany is one of the biggest bilateral donors in Kosovo, but I personally strongly believe is also one of the biggest contributors in shaping the country's economic performance by instilling core work skills and ethics through all the projects that you mentioned, especially those on the technical assistance. And thank you again for your time. We are now, as we speak, 220 participants attending this event, and I'm sure that all of us know what three letters K, F, and W stand for. And the Regional Challenge Fund was commissioned by the German government and delegated to KfW Development Bank for the implementation. Since its founding in 1948, KfW has remained true to its mission of supporting change and encouraging forward and visionary looking ideas in Germany, Europe, and throughout the world. In Kosovo, KfW is present since 1999 and has been helping Kosovo to develop sustainability of energy infrastructure and financial sector. Mr. René Eschelman, KfW Country Director for Kosovo and North Macedonia, is with us today. And Mr. René, what was the idea behind the Regional Challenge Fund, and what does it bring for the vet providers and business community in W6 countries? Would like to hear a few words from you. Thank you.
Renato, thank you very much. A warm welcome to everybody, and thank you very much that you are all participating in our event today with such a big number. That is great. As Mr. 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶 already said, the German financial cooperation through KfW in Kosovo is mainly known for the big investments in infrastructure and also some institutional building, like our support to the Kosovo Credit Guarantee Fund. When we developed a new tool to enter for the first time in the vocational education and training sector in Kosovo, in the entire Western Balkan, 6 countries, it was clear that, we need something different than the typical infrastructure projects. We need a different approach, an approach that supports the modernization of the vet sector and its adaptation to the needs of the labor market of the companies. And at the same time, a scheme that gives incentives to exchange between the vet schools and the private companies, and that at the end leads to an enhancement of practical training and improvement of the training facilities. With the Regional Challenge Fund, our aim is to introduce a demand-driven approach, which comes from the perspective of the private companies, with the goal that at the end, the trainees are equipped with those skills that are requested by the companies, and that the graduates from the training institutions are directly employable when they start their professional life. It is clear, and also, as Vera Baumann said, the dual education system needs both sides, schools and companies, and they have to work in a constant dialogue. And with the Regional Challenge Fund, we would like to listen to these stakeholders and to provide the tailor-made support to these applicants. Therefore, the Regional Challenge Fund will finance training projects which are proposed by the vet schools and the companies together. And I think that is very important, that together they define what is needed at the schools in order to provide modern practical education, and what are also the needs at the companies. So the idea is that together they define an improved vocational training, which is tailor-made for the respective job profiles. Then, based on a competitive and criteria-based selection process, the most convincing proposals in the region will receive non-repayable grants from the fund for the financing of their proposed and projected measures. As already mentioned, around 90 million euros are available for this. And today we will hear how this mechanism will function and how you can apply for these funds. Overall, we believe that with the systematic use of cooperative training methods in the schools, but also in the companies, and the introduction of modern equipment and new technologies, the vet schools will be able to align their programs to the needs of the companies, and that they provide the skilled graduates to the businesses. This will hopefully serve as a solid foundation for young people to start well prepared their professional life. Of course, with the Regional Challenge Fund, we will not be able to serve all schools. It has more a pilot character. And at this stage, we aim to support those schools and companies that are interested in and committed to dual education. So we want to enhance the alliance of the willing. And I think it's now the opportunity for companies and for vet schools to get prepared for the post-pandemic time with well-skilled employees at hand. Therefore, I like to invite vocational training institutions and companies to team up, like we say on Instagram, accept the challenge, and please apply with really good ideas to the fund. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, 𝗪𝗓, for the introduction of this truly innovative and one-of-a-kind financing mechanism, and for encouraging as well the private sector to benefit from it. Really appreciate it. Indeed, more efforts need to be placed in the direction of private sector being involved on a regular, ongoing basis in supporting vet education, but also the vet providers, especially in upgrading the curricula and matching, trying to support them in matching the fast-paced technological development. So far, we have introduced to you the key institutions that stand behind this innovative idea of supporting vet education through financing the needs of vet providers. To invest, and this is, I mean, a common question, what does the fund support in terms of investment? To invest in equipment and machinery, renovation and extension of premises, purchase of teaching materials, and upscaling the teaching capabilities through advisory support. The operational and financial management of the Regional Challenge Fund is delegated to the implementation consultant, a consortia of 4 international companies and institutions, namely 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗄, Planco, Swiss Contact at 𝗕𝗃𝗃, who have a combined extensive experience, I would say, with the professional management of large projects, including vet ones, and an extensive regional footprint with local presence and large network within public and private sector. The fund management unit is the core operational entity of the fund, and we have here today Mr. Frieder Wermann, the team leader of the fund, the former CEO of ProCredit Bank in Kosovo and other ProCredit banks in the region, and he's going to introduce us to the key concept of RCF. Frieder, I leave the word to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renato. Good morning, and as well from my side to the panelists and the many participants out there in Kosovo. Yes, indeed, I will try to introduce briefly the concepts of the Challenge Fund and explain, at least to a certain extent, how we are going to organize the selection process. We have heard quite a lot about the relevance of demand-driven vet education and as well the necessity for investments in that area. I will become a bit more practical, and for this purpose will share my screen and run you through a couple of slides in order to make it a bit more easier to follow. Is this visible right now, my screen?
Yes.
Presentation mode.
Perfect.
So that should be it. No. Good. Yeah, the Regional Challenge Fund. As René Eschelmann has mentioned already, is a competitive mechanism in order to identify suitable projects for that training in the region. Regional also means it's a region-wide competition which we are organizing. Yeah, all the consortia that are created in Kosovo will compete in the RCF with consortia from the other 5 countries. For us, it's a bit of a challenge in order to make it a fair competition, and we are doing everything possible to ensure that information is accessible equally in all the countries. We are organizing these national events for this purpose, but as well there's the upcoming info events and tutorials. I'll come back later to that. When exactly, and as well have set up a web page which is available in all the relevant languages, so everybody should have the possibility to inform himself, herself as well ahead of planning the creation of the consortia and applying. The same eligibility criteria apply across the region. That's obviously important for us in order to come up with proper and reasonable selection at the end. And that is not always entirely straightforward, as the situation and the context in the different countries varies. But I think we have made sure that with a level of criteria going to cooperative training, as well as certain feasibility criteria being taken into consideration, we have a good mix of criteria that ensures that the competition is fair and equal. It's a competition, but in the first place, we have the cooperation between companies and vocational training institutes as the basis. This has been mentioned before. It is crucial that these cooperations are organized in a sustainable way and in a productive way. So ideally, both parties get involved in the same way in order to come up with suitable cooperative training courses. And then an important element for us is as well that the selection is taking place, so to say, outside the region. We have an independent selection pool that during summer will assess the proposals and applications and take decisions largely unbiased and basically mostly based on the criteria we have established in order to identify the best projects in education. Code of training is one of the key elements there. This has been mentioned already. It is part of the German recipe probably to labor markets development. I mention it here because it is one of the key elements that we will take into consideration as well for the selection. So that includes the entire process, consortia thinking about and applying under the RCF. We'll have to look into these questions, how to jointly identify training needs, work together when planning a training course, implement the training course in a way that's integrated between the work-based learning phases and the classroom learning phases, jointly assess the results of the training, including the performance of the trainees, and then ideally as well work together in placing trainees after the training. It is not necessary that all the trainees that are being that participate in the training course that we're financing need to be taken over by the companies, but more mentoring and coaching for trainees can take place. Obviously, the better. So this were the main criteria and principles. Very often, of course, now we get the question, what are the eligibility criteria, who can apply, what are the conditions there? More detailed information is available on the website, so that's always a good opportunity to learn more. We have taken out the key, the most important ones that we require for applicants to fulfill. As we mentioned already, we're looking for consortia, so teams of vocational training institutes and at least 2 companies. 2 companies is the minimum. We are happy to have more in one consortium, so 3, 4, 5, simply because the joint learning effects will be better, and as well will be a more relevant training that can be created. The VTIs, Vocational Training Institutes, needs to be licensed by the relevant authority, and in the case of private ones, accredited. Then we have that is relatively vaguely formulated because there are different instances of authorities licensing VTIs in different countries. What we really look for is that the cooperative trainings that we are financing lead to a nationally recognized qualification. Yeah, again, this is varying from country to country, but this is something where we have to tick in order to go ahead and invite expressions of interest to submit full applications later on. Then the funding range, the tickets we are looking for between 150,000 and 600,000 euros, so quite substantial. Inviting consortia to really think about what can be usefully done in terms of workplace, workshop, refurbishment, rehabilitation, investment in new equipment. And then we have one criteria which is sometimes a bit challenging. We asking the projects to create at least 30 training places that will be made available between the companies and the VTI. In order to make it a bit easier, especially to create the work-based learning places, we have agreed to split it between 15 long-term learning places in the first year and 15 in the second year. But after that, the 30 places should be reached. The measures that can be supported, I mentioned on the workshop infrastructure and equipment. This is most likely to be the bulk of in terms of the amount that we are going to place, and that is as well, I think, where the synergies lie with other projects in the same area. That's really an opportunity to create the infrastructure that enables then VTIs to provide the training that is relevant to companies, and concrete production processes are similar. On top of that, we also support the development of the training. This is in terms of consulting services that we can make available as well under the fund. And before technical setting up technically the equipment purchase, but as well developing the training material. And then last but not least, the teacher training can be supported under the fund. At the VTIs, teachers are usually trained, but especially on the company side, the teachers training is one of the focuses that we are going to have for sure. The timeline. We have the period for the first call for expressions of interest is relatively long. We have started in February now, announcing it, and this goes until the end of April. Simply because we consider it as one of the challenges of the Challenge Fund for the applicants to create the consortia and to bring the enterprises and the VTIs around one table and sign a memorandum of understanding and agree in principle to jointly apply for the RCF. So at the end of April, that's the deadline for the expression of interest. We will then take a month to create a shortlist of the most promising proposals we see and invite those then for submission of project proposals and the full application. For this, we foresee a period of 2 months, and then during summer we are going to evaluate the proposals and hopefully by the end of August have a list of candidates identified, and then there will be another period of fine-tuning, negotiating the grant agreements before signing it and then starting with the procurement. Side note here, the procurement as well is part of the scope of work of the fund management unit. So we will support this process in line with KfW and procurement guidelines, and hopefully make sure that then planned investments can as well be realized swiftly. And I mentioned before, and that's already my last hint here, info sessions and tutorials will be organized in the upcoming weeks in order to support applicants to come around, get around our expression of interest form. The info sessions will as well be addressing the market in a bit more general form to spread the word about the RCF once again and to address the potential applicants, create the interest and provide the basic information on the eligibility criteria, the deadlines a bit as today, and the need for documents possibly to be submitted. And then the tutorials are relatively hands-on, relating directly to the application and the forms that we are having. So for everybody to be able to fill in, especially expression of interest form at the beginning, we will go through these forms directly with participants of the tutorial, make sure that there are no questions unaddressed. The application is completely online, and so there's a link on our webpage which goes direct to the online portal, and relatively straightforward. So in principle, easy to follow. Nevertheless, some tutoring might be needed there. The dates for Kosovo are I've mentioned here as well. We start with the first info session on the 10th of March, and then the second one 2 weeks later. Tutorials then during April. We'll have to assess the situation a bit. There might be more sessions coming up. Depends a bit on the registrations that we see. If there are too many participants, we'll be able to split and add additional dates during the upcoming 2 months. So that's always worthwhile having a look at our webpage again. There's the schedule of activities is there and will be regularly updated. So for everybody interested in obtaining additional information, it's worthwhile having a look there. And that's also then my my last point. The webpage provides quite a good overview of the concepts, the objectives, as well and a selection of relevant documents. In addition to following us on the social media, I would ask interested parties to study this carefully and then be well prepared for the application process. I think we are going to answer a couple of questions probably later on, Renato, but for now, that's it from my side.
Thanks a lot, Frieder, for the introduction and for guiding us through the key principles and concepts of the Regional Challenge Fund, as well as the process we'll be going through in the next couple of months, and also for informing the participants on the planned sessions, the info sessions, both info and tutorial sessions that will take place in the upcoming weeks. And I encourage all participants to have a look at our website and save the dates for the upcoming session. There we will have the chance and more time at our disposal to be addressing their questions. I'm looking now at the Q&A icon and already see some questions here and some answers already being provided by 𝗏𝗏. Thank you, 𝗏𝗏. I see, actually, I will take one question for now. It's from an...
I'm very sorry to interrupt. I unfortunately have to join another meeting to secure more funds for Kosovo-German cooperation. So I need to leave now, but I would like to thank you very much. And I hope that we will get wonderful applications for this wonderful fund. Okay, so all the best.
Thanks, Vera.
Thank you, Vera.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
So there's a question for anonymous attendee, quite well elaborated question. It's dear all, one of the eligibility criteria is that the training institute, vocational training applying for the project must provide trainings accredited by respective authorities in respective country. The question is, shall the VTI be accredited for training in the moment of expression of interest? Yes, for all the trainings that the VTI aims to provide, or the VTI can get accredited also during the implementation of the project for the training that aims to provide in later stages of the project. This is actually two questions in one. The key eligibility criteria is that the VET provider or the vocational training institute should be licensed/accredited, and that is because not every country has a process in place of accrediting the VTI institution and the VET providers, but they should have a license from the respective authority And the certification and diplomas issued by this institution should be recognized on a country level. So they should match the national qualification framework or the, let's say, respective setting, legal setting of that country. Whereas for the new program, because it might involve that the curricula needs to be changed to fit also the needs of the enterprise partnering with the school in the consortia. Yes, it can be accredited / certified later during the project implementation, but not later than the start of the academic program.
So just an additional information here, worthwhile. So we are operating for until 2025. So there are also several calls coming. So the first one is now. We'll have a second call certainly later this year. So everybody interested in preparing the licensing and the certifying right now definitely will have a chance to apply as well at a later stage. So the expression of interest is valid in any case, but we may then consider moving one or the other to a later call. Once this process has been completed.
Thanks, Frieder. As we are approaching the end of this webinar, we still have 2 more speakers to go. GIZ has been working in Kosovo on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development since 1999, and is involved in almost every sector with technical assistance. Youth Employment and Skills in Kosovo project commissioned by BMZ enhances the employability of young people by improving the quality of vocational education and training and strengthening matching mechanisms between labor market supply and demand. And I will gladly invite Mr. 𝗕𝗃𝗵𝗹𝗲 to share with us the rationale behind and the goals of the YES project and the challenges of cooperative training. Mr. Klaus, the word is for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Renato, for also well summarizing our current youth employment and skills project. And since Vera Baumann also already mentioned it, there is a new project coming up, Fit for Jobs, that is going to start in April, basically, and that in the field of vocational education and training, it will mostly be built upon what our current youth employment project is doing and has been doing so far. Also, I'm really very, my warm greetings to all the participants. I'm really happy to see such a large amount of people being interested in cooperative training. GIZ and the Challenge Fund and the GIZ and our GIZ Youth Project actually are operating under a common programming logic for sustainable economic development, which has been approved by our joint donor, of course, the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. Consequently, both projects also share a common objective, which is to improve the employability of young Kosovo people. An important pillar for this is to increase the quality and the relevance of vocational education and training. And I think we share the diagnosis that a key obstacle for this is to achieve this is a lack of systematic participation of the private sector in the entire process chain of the VET system. Of course, there are different models worldwide, actually, on how companies and VET schools cooperate to deliver vocational education. And these depend very much on the specific conditions in each country. However, based on our experience here in Kosovo, which is 10 to 15 years old, but also worldwide, I think we have identified some, I call it, key ingredients, which we consider as both practical and relevant for ensuring successful cooperative training, and on which I hope also the Challenge Fund can build upon, and I would like to share it with you very briefly. When we talk about so far, I think very often when it comes to cooperative training, that means students are going to the companies. Quite often students are more or less limited to observing the whole working process. but they are not becoming part of the real working process, which we consider essential. And in order to achieve this, companies need qualified workplace instructors and in-company trainers to guide and steer the learning process within the companies and to be competent partners for VTI schools in order to organize the cooperative training. And I think here GIZ has already done quite some useful preparatory work. Also for you, we have qualified more than 400 workplace instructors and in-company trainers, and we have also accredited two organizations that are able to deliver such in-company training also to upcoming to future or to companies who are interested in this in the future. Similarly, a similar thing is with regard to the curriculum also, and I think 𝗪𝗂𝗧 has also mentioned that already. The curricula has been already revised, but of course they are still very much written and prepared from a school perspective. And it is not as easy and trivial for teachers and, let's say, companies really to divide and to elaborate teaching and learning plans for the students in such a way that they are in compliance to the curricula and that they are still, that the training can be meaningfully being done in the companies and in the schools. So systematic teaching plans for the different learning sites needs to be developed. And again, here, I think also I would like to mention here the important work of the Swiss Development Project, Cooperation Project 𝗖𝗄, together with them. And we have prepared guidelines for teachers and company instructors, how such teaching plans combining school-based and company-based training can be systematically drawn upon. The widely quoted dual vocational training system in Germany is based on a century-long experience of cooperation between schools and companies. To establish such working relations which lead to stable networks and which are governed by a comprehensive set of rules and regulations is another really important and essential building block for cooperative training approaches. As a GIZ project, we are cooperating currently with 11 vocational schools, and we have established so-called, we call them local vocational education and training and employment networks, which means it's a sort of in different stages of formalization, but it is a stable already, it starts to become a stable network between companies and schools. Which needs to be built upon several years, basically. I think also the 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶 development project has another initiative on establishing so-called industrial liaison offices within the schools, which are also useful, let's say, mechanisms. It's a useful mechanism to establish such networks between companies and schools. And I think Frieda Wörmann also already mentioned, of course, joint assessment schemes, which better reflect the work process and such make the credits gained more relevant for the companies needs further to be developed and jointly implemented. And I think that will be also an important element of the Challenge Fund activities. Last but not least, increasing the acceptance of vocational education among students and their parents is very much needed. And one of the elements to ensure this is that the students are adequately protected against health hazards and accidents. Whereas these aspects are mainly related to the individual companies, it is and remains important to strengthen the institutional structures for an effective private sector participation. The private sector representative organizations such as the KCC, such as the KDWV, Kosovo German Economic Association, needs to build up their capacities in order to assume a real active role in vocational education. If you allow me here briefly to mention our image campaign, I hope I can pronounce it correctly, 𝗕𝗁𝗏𝗏, which we have designed together with the Kosovo Chamber of Commerce. It is a sort of a quality seal, which is meant to be an incentive for companies to get more involved in work-based learning. It is being awarded by the KCC to companies which show commitment and responsibility and ensure the quality of the training for their trainees. We have defined for this seal 10 criteria which companies based on a self-assessment need to fulfill to be awarded this seal. Finally, I'm very happy that with the regional and the forthcoming National Challenge Fund, we have a new instrument which helps to support schools and companies in carrying forward cooperative training approaches. As a GIZ project working for the same donor organization, we are very much committed to support you, the Challenge Fund, in all the phases of the implementation in order to maximize the benefits for the participating companies and for the VTIs or for the wet schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Klaus, for sharing with us these very important topics, I would say, of what still needs to be done towards strengthening the cooperation between private sector and vet providers. And we are also looking forward to work with you to achieve our common goals, which are a better vet education system and more employed graduates. Last but not least, we have here with us Ms. Nora Sanif, who is the Managing Director of the German Kosovo Chamber of Commerce. It has been founded through an initiative of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Kosovo, and currently represents 120 member companies, if I'm correct. And the association advises, supports, and represents German companies in Kosovo that are seeking to develop or expand their business activities. In this regard, Nora, do your member companies face the need for skilled workers, and is the shortage of skilled workers a key obstacle for companies in Kosovo to partner with their counterparts in Germany? Would like to hear a few words from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Unë do të flas shqip, me qenë se audiencën e kemi kryesisht shqipfolse. Kështu që mirë dita und guten Tag për gjithë juve që jeni këtu sot me ne. Shumë faleminderit për pyetjen, Renato. Edhe unë mund ta konfirmoj një gjë që të gjithë këtu në audiencë dim, do të thotë njëra nga top 3 pengesat për bizneset në Kosovë që të zgjerohen është pikërisht kjo, mungesa e fuqisë së kualifikuar punëtore. Pra me këtë sistem të arsimit që kemi aktualisht, edhe me kuadrot që po dalin nga ky sistem, nuk mund të presim as rritjen të bizneseve, po as rritjen e investime. Me qenë se edhe investitorë gjerman këtu e kërkojnë pikërisht atë, do të thotë pyesin nëse ka Kosova fuqi të kualifikuar punëtore. Fabrikat, gjithë e dim, nuk hapen me politologë e jurist. Për zhvillim ekonomik duhet që të përkrahet patjetër prodhimi edhe eksporti, edhe zgjidhja e vetme që ne e shohim si odë është që t'i orientojmë të rit edukimi profesional. Pra, kjo do të ishte një fitore strategjike për Kosovën, edhe duhet jetë top prioritet për qeverinë e re. Këtë e tha më herët edhe kryetari i Odës Ekonomike të Kosovës, do të thotë ne duhet që bashkarisht, që tha Odat edhe shoqatat sektoriale, të kemi kujdes që kjo të mbetet në agjendën e qeverisë së re. Pra të shiqojmë se si të zbatojmë elemente të sistemit dual në Kosovë. Unë gjithmonë e them, për të eksportu mallra ose shërbime në Gjermani, duhet që të importojmë pjesë të elemente të sistemit dual gjerman këtu, në sistemin ton të edukimit profesional. Gjithë e dim që tregu i punës nuk kërkon tri që kanë PhD edhe master në sociologji, juridik ose lanë tjera shoqërore, po këtu kemi me të vërtet nevojë për programer, për zhvillues, për salldues, për operator të makinave CNC. Lista është shumë e gjatë se kjo, edhe ne e shohim fondin si një iniciativë shumë të mirë dhe instrument përmes cilit me të vërtet mund të krijojmë mundësi të mira për të rinjt të Kosovës, cilët kanë dëshirë që të jetojnë dhe të punojnë në Kosovë, dhe kjo shumë e rëndësishme të sekët, do të thotë ky fond do të shërbejë që të hapim vende të punës në Kosovë dhe të aftësojmë të rinjt tanë që të punojnë në bizneset tona këtu, edhe inkurajojmë shumë që pra bizneset bashkë me shkollat profesionale të aplikojnë këtë fond edhe të përfitojmë sa më shumë edhe në punësimin e trive. Në këtë formë edhe gjithsesi që do t'i kalohen këto pengesat e hendekut që e kemi. Gjithë parafolësit e thanë që kjo është një instrument shumë i mirë për me inkuraju pra këtë që me të vërtet secili e përmendi prej neve, që të fillojmë të implementojmë gradualisht këto elemente të sistemit dual gjerman këtu edhe në kompanitë tona në bashkëpunim ndërmjet shkollave profesionale dhe kompanive. Unë po e them edhe atë që tha 𝗕𝗂𝗏 më herët, accept the challenge. Ne jemi këtu për ta përkrahur fondin, po edhe bizneset tona anëtare që të gjenden bashkë, të krijojnë konsorciume sektoriale, të aplikojnë me shkollat përkatëse profesionale dhe të përfitojmë sa më shumë nga ky fond, I cili është me të vërtetë një nismë shumë e mirë, edhe është një qasje shumë praktike për të inkurajuar bashkëpunimin ndërmjet bizneseve edhe shkollave të mesme profesionale. Pra faleminderit 𝗕𝗪𝗏𝗀 për këtë iniciativë edhe pra thirrja vlen, aplikoni për fondin. Faleminderit shumë.
Thank you, Nora, for your important notes and also for supporting us with the promotion of the RCF. And we really look forward to be working with you and your member companies in the near future. Now we are about to end this session. There's still a few seconds left to pick up some questions, although I think I tried to address all of them. So what I would say that I encourage all participants to attend the info and tutorial sessions, and there we'll have the chance and more time at our disposal to address your issues. And in the meantime, please have a look, as Mr. Berman mentioned, in our website and social media, and you find our emails there, and we'll be willing to address your questions as soon as we receive them. So thank you all for participating in this event. Thank you to the speakers, and thank you to the technical support. I think it was a good one with a great participation, and it shows some interest in the fund, and we hope to seeing each other soon in the upcoming weeks. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.